19 years old, 50 points clear at the top of the Formula One World Championship, the youngest points leader the sport has ever seen. And now, Kimi Antonelli is the defendant in a lawsuit filed in a Bologna courtroom. The man suing him is the same man who spotted him in a go-kart at 8 years old. His name is Minardi. If that name rings a bell, it should. It belongs to one of the most loved teams in Formula One history. So how does the driver everyone wants end up the one being taken to court? A lawsuit has been filed against Kimi Antonelli, and the name on it is Giovanni Minardi. The same Giovanni Minardi who found Antonelli as a small boy in a go-kart, signed him, and set this whole career in motion. The man who built the launch pad is now standing at the far end of a legal claim against the rocket he helped light. His case is that he was never paid what he was owed for the finding, and now he wants a court to force the issue. This is not a whisper drifting around the paddock. It is a real civil action, grinding through the courts of Antonelli's own home city. By his lawyer's account, it has already run for close to a year, hearing after hearing, while almost nobody watching the races had any idea. The most senior figures at Mercedes could be pulled in to give evidence. And the money being fought over is big enough that neither side will back down. And every week it drags on, the stakes climb higher, because of what Antonelli has become while it grinds away. He is the runaway leader of the 2026 Formula One World Championship, 50 points clear at the top, the single most valuable name in the sport, which is exactly why the size of the claim cuts so deep. So first, see how far the boy from that go-kart has climbed. The numbers this season read like a typing error. 6 wins already, 6 poles, and 9 podiums. 219 points after 11 of the 22 rounds, 50 clear of Hamilton in the Ferrari. He took the lead back in March at the Japanese Grand Prix, becoming the youngest driver ever to lead a Formula One title race. His first win had come a couple of weeks earlier, in China, where he took pole and won as the second youngest race winner in history. Only Max Verstappen has ever won younger. Hold on to that name. It comes back later in a way you will not expect. Since China, the wins have kept coming. The most recent came in Belgium, at Spa. Antonelli started on pole and led the whole thing home. He followed it a week later with third in Hungary, earned the hard way after a grid penalty had buried him on Saturday. That same afternoon told the other half of the story. Lewis Hamilton, the man whose seat Antonelli took, threw his own race away with a pit lane speeding penalty and slid to 5th. The teenager climbed, the 7-time world champion sank, and the gap at the top grew wider on a Sunday that summed up this whole strange season. Mercedes are running away with the Constructors' Championship on the back of all this. 379 points, 72 clear of Ferrari. Now they hold the driver every rival wishes they had signed first, the most valuable young asset in the paddock, and everyone in it knows exactly what he is worth. And value is what this case is really about. But to see that clearly, you need to know where this driver came from, because none of it happened by accident. The talent was never in doubt. 2 European karting titles as a boy. Then, in 2022, he moved into cars and took over, winning the Italian and German Formula 4 championships in the same season with Prema. The year after, he added 2 more Formula Regional titles. Then came the leap that told the paddock he was special. Instead of a year in Formula 3, the normal next step, he jumped straight over it into Formula 2 in 2024, again with Prema. Formula 2 is the last rung below Formula 1, full of drivers in their mid-20s. He was 17, he finished 6th in his rookie year, and became the youngest driver ever to win multiple Formula 2 races. Nobody skips Formula 3 and survives. He did more than survive. That is why, at the 2024 Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Mercedes announced the decision that changed his life. Antonelli would replace Lewis Hamilton for 2025. A team handing a teenager the seat of a 7-time world champion and asking him to fill it. No pressure at all. His rookie season last year was not the fairy tale. He finished 7th with 150 points. There were flashes, a sprint pole in Miami, a second in Brazil, but a long mid-season slump saw the results dry up, and the doubters get loud. What matters is what he did next. He came back this year and turned it around, and now he sits at the very top. But every bit of that climb rests on a foundation somebody else laid, and that somebody is the man now suing him. It was 2014, and a boy of 8 was racing karts around northern Italy, faster than children years older than him. The man who noticed was Giovanni Minardi, who ran a driver management company and had spent his whole life around racing. He signed the boy. He took on the job every serious young driver needs done for them. The contracts, the seats, the introductions, the doors that only open when someone with the right name knocks. And Minardi knocked on the biggest door in the sport. He arranged for Antonelli, at 11, to test in front of Ferrari. 11, a child sitting before the most famous team in motorsport, weighed up as a possible future. By the account that has circulated for years, Ferrari's boss at the time, Maurizio Arrivabene, turned him down for being too young. That rejection is quietly one of the great turning points of the whole story, because of where the boy went instead. He went to Mercedes. In 2018, he joined the Mercedes Junior program, the pipeline Toto Wolff runs personally. Sit with the irony. Ferrari looked at an 11-year-old and said not yet. Mercedes looked at the same child and built their future around him. Today that child leads the championship, and the man he is beating is Lewis Hamilton, in a Ferrari. The team that passed on him, and the champion he replaced, are both now chasing his taillights. The move to Mercedes felt like a small administrative step at the time. It was not. That was the moment the ground under this whole story quietly shifted. Here is the part that turns a mentor into a claimant. The same relationship that carried Antonelli up to Mercedes was the one Mercedes wanted him free of. When a driver joins a works team's junior program, that team wants control. Control of the contracts, the schedule, and above all the image rights, the commercial value of the driver's name, face, and future earnings. According to Minardi's own lawyer, when Antonelli moved into the Mercedes structure, the drivers' camp decided the conditions to keep the old arrangement in place were no longer met. And that is where the dispute was born. That was the story the public saw. Behind it, a management relationship was ending, in a way one side never accepted. Minardi's position is simple. He did the work, opened the doors, built the foundation the whole career now stands on. And he was never paid what the mandate he signed with the family entitled him to. His lawyer is Mattia Grassani. Grassani has said his client never wanted a civil court at all, and only after long and painful reflection concluded ordinary justice was the one path left. He has also said there were real chances to settle quietly, and that the offers on the table were judged unacceptable. So, instead of a settlement, the matter went in front of a judge. So the mentor and the driver could not agree. What came next made the disagreement look small. The claim, as reported by the Italian press, covers two things: money that Minardi says was owed under the management mandate and never handed over, and damages for the way that mandate was brought to an end. It is a contract fight, not a criminal one, but the sums being whispered are not small. And here the accurate version matters, because a lot of numbers are flying around, and most are wrong. No official figure has been confirmed by the court, not one. Some Italian reports describe a claim in the high hundreds of thousands. Others call it millions. A figure of around 12 million has been printed, but read those reports carefully, and that number is an estimate of what Antonelli earns in a year, not what he is being asked to pay. The exact demand is not public, only that the two sides are a long way apart, with no settlement reached. The next thing worth saying is that this is not a bolt from a clear sky. While the headlines feel brand new, the fight is not. It has been grinding quietly through the Italian courts, month after month. The best season of his life, and the hardest legal battle of his life, have been unfolding at the very same time. There is even a question mark over the simplest fact of all, the moment it actually ended. Some reports trace the break to the end of 2018, when Antonelli first moved into the Mercedes orbit. Others place it much later, closer to 2025. The two sides do not even agree on when the relationship they are fighting over truly stopped. And in a contract dispute this size, that one missing date can be worth a fortune. Pay attention to this next detail, because it explains why the case carries the weight it does. The people who might testify are not minor figures. Italian reports say Toto Wolff himself, the man who runs the entire Mercedes operation, could be summoned as a witness. So could Gwen Legrue, the head of Mercedes driver development. The two figures who took control of Antonelli's career away from Minardi may end up in a Bologna courtroom, under oath, explaining exactly how and when that handover happened. None of that is a small thing for a team in the middle of a championship fight. Mercedes have spent years and a fortune turning Antonelli into the face of their future. For an operation built entirely around control, it is the one loose thread they cannot pull tight. But this was never really about one manager and one fee. It is about a name. And to understand why that name lands the way it does, you have to know what Minardi means to the people who love this sport. Go back to 1985, a small team from the town of Faenza, in the same corner of Italy Antonelli comes from, entered Formula One for the first time. It was founded by Giancarlo Minardi and carried his surname down the side of the car. The team never won a race. It almost never scored a point. It ran on a tiny fraction of the budget of the giants it lined up against, for 2 full decades. And in spite of all that, or maybe because of it, the paddock adored it. Minardi was the underdog Formula One built a legend around. The little team that handed debuts to drivers who became superstars everywhere else. Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion, started his career at Minardi. So did Mark Webber, whose very first Grand Prix ended in a points finish so unlikely it left grown men in the garage in tears. Giancarlo Fisichella, Jarno Trulli. A whole generation passed through a team that could never afford to keep any of them. Minardi was where careers were born, the place you got discovered. The team raced on until 2005, when it was sold, first to Paul Stoddart, then to Red Bull. Under its new owners, it was renamed Toro Rosso, and today it races on again as Racing Bulls. And here is where that record from earlier snaps back into place. The only driver in history to win a Grand Prix younger than Antonelli is Max Verstappen, and Verstappen made his Formula One debut for Toro Rosso, the team that was once Minardi. The ghost of Minardi runs straight through the one record Antonelli is still chasing. The green and black cars are long gone, but the name never left the sport. Giancarlo Minardi went on to lead a commission at the sport's governing body and to run the historic circuit at Imola. The family stayed woven into Italian racing at every level. And here is the detail that makes this whole thing feel almost written on purpose. Look at a map of northern Italy. Antonelli was born in Bologna. The Minardi team was founded just down the road in Faenza. Imola, the circuit Giancarlo went on to run, sits right between the two. And the courtroom where this case is being fought is back in Bologna. The birth of the team, the birth of the driver, and the lawsuit that now binds them, all of it fits inside one small stretch of Italian road, the corner of the country they call the Motor Valley. And Giovanni Minardi, the man now suing Antonelli, is Giancarlo's son. Read that back slowly. The surname that once stood, more than any other, for giving young drivers their first chance, is now the surname at the top of a lawsuit against the youngest championship leader the sport has ever produced. A boy discovered by the family whose whole reputation was built on discovering boys. The irony is almost too clean to be real. On track, Antonelli looks anything but distracted. Whatever is happening in that Bologna courtroom, it is not showing up anywhere in his lap times. Off the track, his side has stayed calm and almost silent. Antonelli has said nothing in public about the case. Neither has Mercedes. His legal team, and a separate set of lawyers acting for his parents, are reported to be confident that everyone acted within the law, that nothing improper was done, that the old arrangement ended for legitimate reasons, and that they will answer the claim in court. Minardi frames it in a completely different way. Through his lawyer, he has cast the case as a matter of respect and principle, not simply money. The argument, stripped down, is this. A man gave years of his life to a child's career, opened the doors that made everything after it possible, then watched that career climb to the very top while feeling he had been quietly cut out of what he was owed. Whether a judge agrees is a separate question, but that sense of being written out of his own success story is the emotional core of what he is claiming. And there is a second thread that makes the timing even sharper. The more Antonelli wins, the larger the shadow of this case grows, because the value of everything Minardi says he helped build keeps climbing. A management fee tied to a driver's earnings is worth little when that driver is an unknown junior in a kart. It becomes a fortune when he is leading the World Championship and every marketing department on the grid wants his face. Every win does not shrink the dispute. It quietly raises the stakes. So here is where it truly stands. In the middle of the summer break, a 19-year-old leads the World Championship by 50 points. In a courtroom in his own home city, the man who first found him is asking to be paid for the finding. Hearings have already happened, and more are to come. And no figure, no verdict, and no settlement has been made public. When the season restarts, Antonelli will climb back into the fastest car on the grid as clear favourite for the title. The case will keep moving through the Bologna courts on its own quiet schedule, indifferent to where he finishes on any Sunday. Two versions of his story are being written at the same time, one on the track, where he is tearing up the record books, and one in a courtroom, where the beginning of it all is being fought over line by line. The question that started all this is still the one worth holding on to. How does the driver that everyone on earth wants end up the one taken to court? The answer, it turns out, is that they are not two stories at all. They are one. The exact thing that made him valuable enough to sue is the exact thing that carried him to the top of the championship. And that story is a very long way from finished.